I was tempted to start out this video by singing "It's the most wonderful time of the year" because those of us who own a home or own any sort of property, a business, we are getting our property tax bill. We got our assessments earlier and it is bill time. There was a provincial freeze this year. And so I wanted to just talk today about, as I go out to knock doors, specifically in the rural ward, there are often questions around who pays how much when it comes to property tax. What is my property tax rate? So I wanted to give a primer on that today. But of course, any discussion around this, it's kind of like we're at episode 33 here. So we're like 1/3 of the way in. I did cover this when I discussed early on in a very early video about the Local Governance Act. What are we actually paying for? That's really important to know, because a lot of the time, whether you're in the urban ward or the rural ward and you just see a tax bill come in like this and you say, what is this for? Who's getting it? What am I paying for? I really think it's important to go back to first principles. And as somebody who wants to be your mayor, I think it's important that I understand what you are actually paying for in terms of what the municipality does. And so when you go to the Local Governance Act, Section 5, there are 4 purposes of the municipal government. So that's really important to know. The first thing is good government. Good government involves making decisions, transparency. We are governed by a council. Previous videos, I had that hourglass of decision making, right? Council, mayor and deputy mayor serve at the direction of council, on the council as one whole body. And then of course, that council directs the CAO, and the CAO oversees all the staff that provide all the things. So good governance is the first purpose of your municipal government. And hey, we hope it's good. That's why you have a say in electing your council on May 11th, mayor and all the councillors. And then the second purpose is to provide facilities and services and infrastructure. So, when you look out and you see buildings and parks and pipes and roads and water treatment facilities and all that kind of stuff, that is what we need. We need to pool our money together as a collective towards this non-profit corporation that is not going to continually try to squeeze money out of us for profit and provide all of those essential basic services. The third purpose of your government is to provide safety and viability in the community. So that is things like fire and police and passing bylaws around public safety and things like that, everything that entails. And then the fourth is to provide environmental, social, and economic development. That is kind of looking into the future and saying, as this community moves, grows, evolves, that kind of thing, where are we going? That is a really important aspect of your municipal governance as well. So that's literally the mandate, the purpose of municipal government in St. Stephen and anywhere in New Brunswick. So when you get your property tax bill, that is literally all the things and the people, the services, infrastructure, that's what you are paying for. Now, when you get your bill, you are going to see something on here that says the rate. Now, this should be a giveaway. Mine is 1.56. 1.56, where do you think I live at a rate of 1.56? Oh, wait, like Jeopardy. That is the rate, the mill rate, although that's a bit of a misnomer because New Brunswick assesses by hundreds. Am I getting ahead of myself? That is the rate, I'll explain this in a second, that we pay when we live in the urban ward. So more like in the populated area of St. Stephen. You can pull up a map. I know I have because I'm going to start door knocking. And you can see the designation. There's Urban Ward 2 and Rural Ward 1. Now I can't remember what I said. I live in the urban ward, and that is Ward 2, and that is what the mill rate is, 1.56. Is what I pay. 1.56 of what? Well, this is where your assessment is really important. This is what I want to explain. So we got an assessment, right, earlier this year. And the assessment is what the government deems the value of your property. If you say this looks like it's been stomped on outside in the snow, it actually did. It blew it. It looks like I crumpled it up and threw it, which I did not. Even though a lot of us sometimes feel that way when you say, how did my property tax bill go up? How did my assessment, this is not a bill, it says right on the, this is not a bill, this is your assessment. How did my assessment go up when I haven't done anything to my property? Well, welcome to the world of rising prices, I suppose. This so the province assesses your property and says how much it is worth. The municipality determines through the CAO and the staff and different formulas. It's up to the council to approve this, but the amount you will pay on that assessment is determined by the municipality. Now, I said I pay 1.56, and that's a dead giveaway that I live in the urban ward too, because the rural ward, when you get your property tax bill, you will see that you pay 56 cents per 100. Now, what is that per 100? So that is how it's assessed, is for every $100 that your property is assessed at, you pay that amount. So for in my case, I had this assessment of $238,400. Because of the freeze this year, the assessment amount is $187,400. So when I got my bill, that is right here, $187,000. I'm paying 1.56 on that. So you divide that by 100. For every $100 unit of that $187,400, I will pay $1.56 because I live in the urban ward. If you're in the rural ward, again, you're going to pay 56 cents instead of $1.56, and this is rounded. There's a bunch of digits after that, but let's just say 156 versus 56. But one thing that you are also going to see in the rural ward is a charge by the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, essentially a road tax is called, and that's 41 cents this year. That's assessed by the province and levied by the province. And because you would have frontage, you would have roads and infrastructure that are maintained by the province, roads that are outside a municipality, of course, they fall under the jurisdiction of the province. So the municipality maintains almost all of the roads within the urban ward of St. Stephen. And frankly, they are pretty worse for wear, as we all know. There has been an investment of $5 million, which will be borrowed and used from one of the capital funds to start paving roads and improving here in St. Stephen. But the province is responsible for the roads outside the urban area, and because it's provincial highways, right? When you're on these highways, you see the sign, provincial road this, provincial road that. And that's why in the rural ward, you will pay a 41 cent levy, essentially, from the DTI. That'll bring your taxes up to about 97 cents per $100. Okay, so again, just when you're thinking about, as a municipality, we're all in this together. Sometimes the rural ward says, why the heck am I paying for things in, downtown St. Stephen? I just wanted to mind my own business out here in the woods. I wanted a big property. I didn't want anything to bother me. I have my own septic and that kind of thing. So why am I paying? What am I paying for exactly? And that distinction is really important. So the way that an urban resident like myself, because urban residents often say, why am I paying so much when the rural are not, right? So you can see, I'm not trying to create a divide here, but this is just the rationale that you hear sometimes. What I think a lot of us agree on is to just charge the same rate to everybody wouldn't be fair. And that's one thing when I've run for office, even before MLA, like when I knock on the doors, people want things to be fair. And this feels more fair. Urban residents basically pay 2.8 times more in their tax rate than rural, okay? And the reasoning around that is because urban residents are paying for sidewalks and septic systems, and all those things that are not in the rural areas, right? And even facilities. There's a sense that maybe if you are urban, you use certain facilities more than others, especially those roads in the urban area, that kind of thing. So that is something that the municipal government is always looking at and having discussions at. Again, the municipalities set the rates, and municipalities, again, UMNB and that kind of thing, there are discussions around fairness, especially with amalgamation. Amalgamation, which was mandated by the province, 2022, was kind of thrown at every municipality, and there was a sense of a bit of a balance needed. How do rural residents, what do they pay for? Do they come into town? Are they using roads? But of course, they're not using water infrastructure and things like that. So when we are talking about, the budget, and I've been promising to talk about this for days now, the budget. We have a $14 million, $903,131 budget. That's the total revenue that is brought in on $842 million plus dollars of property value. Okay, and when you think about it, that just north of 80% of property tax is what pays for this budget, and you can see the highest number. So almost $9.5 million just comes from property tax. What I just described to you, us urban and rural residents, that makes up over 80% of this budget. Then you get other things on here when you're looking at the revenue. There's sales of services provided to other governments. That's a source of revenue. Sale of services, that's another source of revenue. Other revenues from own source, things that the municipality sells, essentially. Unconditional grants, that makes up a huge amount. Conditional transfers, and then other transfers, 1.6. So there's governments transferring in through grants and things like that. And it's a $14,903 budget. Like I said, over 80% of that is just property taxes. Other sources of income that the municipality will tap are commercial taxes. Now, commercial taxes can be between 1.4 and 1.7 max times what a private resident can be charged. And so if you have a business, the sense is, whether it's a huge business or kind of a brick and mortar mom and pop downtown, you will pay somewhere in there 1.4 to 1.7 times what the local residential tax is. And so that contributes to the budget as well. That's an important source of revenue. And then you'll see a levy on the BIA. That's 20 cents for every $100 of assessed value if you have a business in the BIA. Now, that is a designated area along the main street, King Street, and Prince William Street. Okay, so that's called the BIA, and if you have a business on that strip, and it doesn't go all the way up King Street, you are levied 20 cents on your 20 cents per 100 on your area. And that money, which ends up being about $30,000 when you look at the budget, it goes right back into the business district to help those businesses grow and thrive. So it's not taken and put somewhere else. It's levied on businesses, including things like, the border, the CBSA, and the federal building where the passport offices and stuff like that. So it's not just the small businesses. These larger businesses are also paying that BIA. Most municipalities have them, and then that money is invested right back into that geographic area along the BIA. So that's another source of revenue. So just wanted to explain that, the property tax bill, the urban versus rural, the total budget, how your property taxes fit in, and how much of that 14 million plus budget that your property taxes are actually contributed to, and then what you are actually purchasing with those taxes, which is the purpose of the municipal government, those 4 things that I described to you. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful as you look at your property tax bill, as I get out there and knock doors. Of course, I want to be the kind of mayor who is leading a council that you can trust, as the trust in council seems to have eroded a little bit. Building a home that we're proud of through these kind of taxes and this revenue, making sure that that money is going to places that are going to fulfill our mandate, but also help our community thrive and bring more people, whether they're visiting or moving here. And using an action plan, really describing to you whenever we make decisions as a council moving forward, what we are doing every step of the way, going through 5 steps as we move through every decision making, right? So first we need to understand what we're doing. Then we need to plan what we're doing. Then we need to deliberate what we're doing. Then we adapt and adopt what we're doing. And then we build the thing. And I want to be clear in the future, any project, you name it, I'll be able to say, oh, here's where we are in that. Really, that's part of that transparency. That's part of the change we need in St. Stephen. buildupststephen.ca. That is my website. That's where you can find more about me and donate to the cause and see what I'm all about. And drop a comment as well. I'd love for you to help me make the content. What do you want me to talk about? Do you have any questions? I'm all here for that as well. But I'm going to knock on some doors and I'll report to you tomorrow on how that went. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourself and your neighbor today. And let's build up St. Stephen together. Cheers.